enjoy this just as much as we did in the first round.
All right, good morning, Hoover Elementary. Awesome. So my name is Mr. Musser, and this is the Sinfonia West Orchestra from the Greater Twin Cities Youth Symphonies. And the Greater Twin Cities Youth Symphonies has about 9 different orchestras of different ages and levels. And this is the Sinfonia West Orchestra. This is mostly middle-aged students. Sorry, not middle-aged, middle school. All right, yes, I'm almost awake. So middle school aged students. So like 5th through like 8th grade, maybe 9th grade. And we rehearse every Tuesday night, and we've rehearsed quite a bit of music to play for you today, about a half hour's worth. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of Beethoven. Almost everybody, fantastic. All right, Beethoven is one of the most well-known composers of all time. And the first piece that we're going to play by Beethoven was written over 200 years ago. Now, a song that has been played for that many years, okay, will likely last forever. Well beyond me, okay? So I wonder if you've heard this song by Beethoven before. Raise your hand if you've heard that song before. Great. That song is called Ode to Joy, and it comes from Beethoven's 9th Symphony. And something really interesting about Beethoven is that throughout his career as a composer, writing music, he was gradually becoming deaf. He couldn't hear anything. By the time he wrote that melody and wrote his 9th Symphony, he was completely deaf. But he heard all the music in his head, and he composed a really cool symphony. So our first piece is called Finale, and it's the last movement from Beethoven's 5th Symphony. piece we're going to play is by a composer named Franz Schubert. Okay? So if you noticed in the first piece that we played by Beethoven, probably most of the time we were playing pretty loud, right? Yeah. So this next piece, you're going to hear certainly some softer sections of the piece. Okay? In fact, it starts out really, really soft. Anybody know what the Italian word for loud is? Like the musical word for loud? Yes. Forte is correct. Everybody say forte. Forte. All right, great. How about the musical word for playing soft? Yes. It's called piano. Everybody say piano. Very good. So this piece starts out piano. It gets loud later though, so. All right. so much for being a great audience. So, what actually is an orchestra? Well, an orchestra is a group of musicians playing a lot of different instruments. So you might see what's called just a string orchestra, which are just string players, violins, violas, cellos, and bass. You might have a band, which is mostly just wind players, plus percussion. Or you might just have a percussion ensemble of just percussion instruments. But this orchestra is kind of unique and cool in the fact that we're a full orchestra. We have strings, we have wind players, and then we also have percussion. So I'd like to introduce the different sections to you at this time. Over on your left, we have violin players. So all of those students are playing the violin. And then a little bit to the right are the viola players. And violas are quite similar to violins. It's held the same way, but it's a little bit bigger and therefore a little deeper in sound. All right, then we kind of take a jump in size to the cello over on your right. These are all cellos. Cello's too big to hold under your chin, so we have to sit down and play it. And then over on your far right and back are the basses, the really big ones. All right, so that's our string section. And then behind the strings, we have our wind section. And in the wind section, we have flutes, we have oboe, we have clarinet, and we have bassoon. Yeah. All right, and then in our brass section, we have trumpets, we have French horn, we have trombone, and then we have the tuba. Yeah, so you see a lot of variety in sizes of instruments. Typically, the bigger the instrument, the lower the sound. Or the smaller the instrument, the higher the sound. All right, and then over on your far left, we have our percussion section, kind of in back over there. And after we play our next piece, we'll have, actually in a couple of pieces, we'll have some percussion instruments demonstrated to you. Our next piece is called the Rosamund Overture, and it's actually another piece by the same composer you just heard, Franz Schubert. right. So I just heard that quite recently you guys have had the opportunity to maybe try out some instruments and maybe sign up to play instruments next year. Is that correct? All right. Who's going to play the violin next year? All right. Anybody going to play the viola? Wow, look at that. Awesome. Oh, pressure's on viola. How about the cello? Excellent. Any string bass players? Very good. Excellent. How about students playing maybe the flute next year? Awesome. How about the oboe? Anyone? Yes. Clarinet? Cool. Trumpet? Trombone? No trombone players. Oh, they're all at the other elementary school, right? Okay. Any tuba players? Sinfonia? How about saxophone? Yeah. What did I leave out? Oh, oboe. Anybody gonna play the oboe? No, sorry, the bassoon next year. The bassoon. How about percussion? Cool. Well, I hope someday you guys get the opportunity to play in a full orchestra, just like what we're doing for you today. All right, our next piece is called The Tempest. Anybody know what a tempest is? What do you think a tempest might be? Anybody? A tempest is a storm. Oh, is that what you were going to say? It is. A tempest is a storm. All right, so our next piece is sort of a musical depiction of a storm. So you'll hear at the beginning how the storm hasn't really arrived yet, but it's coming. The sky is turning dark and ominous. And then you'll hear things that are representing rain, thunder, lightning, wind, and maybe even hail. So this is called The Tempest. Our next piece is a Korean folk song called Ariran. Okay, and it's a very, very well-known piece coming from Korea. And you might recognize it. It was played at the 2018 Olympics that were held in Korea. And it was a really kind of special moment for for the Olympics, the opening ceremonies. And in this piece, you're going to hear a lot of kind of cool special effects from the orchestra. What you'll hear from the string players is that they normally play with the hair that's on their bow. That's how they generate the sound. But in this song, they're actually going to flip their bow over, and they're going to use the wood, the stick part of the bow, to make some cool sounds. And then you'll hear lots of different very cool percussion sounds over in our percussion section. So I want to demonstrate a few percussion sounds for you, and then you can listen for them in the piece. So the first percussion instrument I want you to listen for is called the claves. And then you'll hear two different sounds from a suspended cymbal. Here's the first sound. And here's the second sound. And then you're going to hear a gong. All right, then you're going to hear some tempo blocks. And then you'll hear the bells. So while we play Are We Ready, please listen for all of those sounds. Thank you. Thanks again, everybody, and thank you so much for being a great, great audience. We really appreciate it. We have just one last song to play for you, and it's a Mexican dance, and it's called A la Mariachi. All right, thank you again, Hoover Elementary. Thanks again so much for being a fabulous audience, and we hope to see you again soon. Good luck to our future musicians in the 5th grade. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks again.